Hello, everyone, and welcome to our web series, MUTU. Today, we are focusing on the transition from being a student into being a professional. And I'm Ashley Snyder with the Event Management Office, and today our guest speaker is Jessica Erickson. She also worked in the Event Management Office as a student, and now she works in our office full-time. So Jessica, if you want to take it away and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your experiences in the office as a student.
Thanks, Ashley, for having me today. I did start in the event management office my sophomore year at Iowa State University as a student, and I was hired to be the front desk assistant that kind of helped with all of the walk-ins, helped booking smaller events and some of those marketing resources that help student organizations market and promote their events, and then just doing phone, customer service, things like that. And I think that was truly my first experience in a professional office environment. Before that, all the positions I'd held had been more in a daycare or just less customer service and professional email and phone etiquette. So that position specifically really gave me a taste of professional communication, whether that was face to face, over the phone, going through emails and communicating back with full time staff. And then I had the opportunity to move up into a wedding coordinator position where I helped our full-time staff members coordinate weddings at the university. And that was probably my most beneficial student experience just because I had the opportunity to collaborate with various professional vendors. So working with photographers and DJs and florists and bakers and coordinating timelines for the day of the wedding. And then obviously just having that professional communication throughout the wedding planning process with the bride and groom and family. And it just kind of took that professionalism up a level because you were working with clients that this was their big special day. So it was very important for me to always be on my game, whether that was answering questions over the phone, meeting with them, and scheduling meetings in person. I always had to be ready to go and be very scheduled and professional there. Um, Throughout all of that, I would say just having the opportunity to shadow the other full-time staff in our building, whether that was in the event management office or in our business office or within student activities or marketing. I just got to meet a lot of full-time professionals and talk to them, hear about their stories, how they transitioned into the workplace, tips and tricks from them, and then just having those people kind of be in my corner and encourage me and support me and let me know about different opportunities to help grow me as a professional. So those were all really beneficial experiences for me.
Yeah, that is great. So when you're talking about this transition from being a student into becoming a professional, can you tell us a little bit about your job process, your job search process, and what tools you used?
Yes, so I just how I was kind of talking about getting to know those full-time staff members and having relationships and connections with them. I was lucky enough that I had multiple full-time staff members that would kind of let me know if they heard about event-related job openings, whether it was on campus or in the Des Moines area. I just had people constantly sending me different job opportunities, recommending me to those and offering to write me letters of recommendation or references, which would not have happened if I hadn't gotten super connected within my jobs and just taken that extra time to get to know all the full time staff and learn from them. So I would say my number one resource when I was going through the job search process was just that word of mouth recommendations from people that had been in my path before. Also, my old internship coordinator, she recommended a couple of jobs to me. So, just a lot of professionals and mentors in my life that had my best interest in mind and would send jobs my way. I also knew that I wanted to stay in the university realm. So I was very active on Iowa State University's job board and just being specific to that university atmosphere. But I also did use Indeed.com quite a bit just to set up a lot of automated job searches. So I was kind of trying to work smarter, not harder. So having those automatically send me emails of different opportunities that had those keyword tags that I had set up in those automated job searches. And I kind of learned about that feature through Iowa State's Career Services department. So before I graduated, I met with the Career Services quite a bit just to fine tune my resume, to do some mock interviews. They went through my LinkedIn profile and gave me tips on that. So just a lot of like fine tuning everything before I was starting to do the job search interview process. And then they told me about Indeed and all of the automated searches you could have set up for you, just so you're not constantly scrolling all day. You can just have it be doing the work for you. So those were kind of my main tools I used. I would definitely recommend using Career Services. They were a huge benefit, and it's already free for students to use and utilize their services department. And I believe that alumni can also access those services as well.
Yeah, that is great. So, once you were going through all these different websites looking for jobs and you found the jobs you were really interested in and you wanted to pursue, how did you prepare for those interviews and how did you prepare to really showcase the skills that you had and how that would transfer into these positions?
Yes. So, I'd say interview prep is really important when you're searching for a job, especially if you are really serious about the job and you are really dedicated to getting a certain job. I remember my first job I interviewed for right out of college. I didn't do as much interview prep as I should have. I still did the basic things that I would normally do. So, rereading through the job posting is my number one tip, especially right before the interview. Just rereading through everything that they're looking for in an employee. So, highlighting, sometimes I'll even print out the job posting and highlight those keywords. So, if they're looking for somebody that is great with customer service or communication skills, I'm highlighting those keywords and making sure that I am talking about my experience with customer service and communication. And just when you're using the words that the hiring manager uses in the job posting, that really helps to build the connection between what you have done in your past and what you can do for this company. So definitely reading through the job posting and finding the keywords. And then my number two tip would just be to actually do some in-depth research of the company, get to know what their values are, what their mission and vision is, and they getting to know obviously who the hiring manager is, what their position does. If you can find any of that information or all of that information, that just gives you more things to talk about in your interview. And it just, I think, has saved me from looking a little silly if you don't know exactly what that job will be doing or you don't know what the company stands for. You can look a little silly if you're not sure of those things. So do your research. You don't have to know every little detail of when your company was founded and how all of those super minute details, but I have learned that, especially in your professional jobs, you can write some of these things down. So I always took a professional portfolio into interviews and I researched the company enough that I knew in my head their company values, their vision and mission. I knew all of those things, but if I wanted to write down a couple of details of things about the company, I would write them on my portfolio just in case in an interview, sometimes you get a little nervous and maybe forget some of those things you had looked up in advance. So definitely doing that. And then making sure that I came prepared with questions. So I think this is something that a lot of students think I have to have questions so that I look prepared. And that's true, but you should also have questions to see if you are a good fit for the company and if the company is a good fit for you. So I think a lot of students would, especially when it's your first job out of college, you're just so eager to get a job and get any job. But you can also be a little bit choosy and you want to make sure that the company is a good fit for you as much as you are a good fit for them. So for me, that was making sure that the company culture was a little more casual than super, super professional, where you are allowed to talk about your personal life a little bit more at work and have some more of those friendships and relationships with your coworkers than just being 100% business 100% of the time. And I'm thankful that I found a company that is amazing at that. So just knowing the things for you that are kind of those make or break um, things you're looking for in a company and making sure you're asking questions about those policies. I know a lot of my friends right now are in the hospitality and event industry, and they are struggling with all of the COVID related things going on. And they've said to me, I wish I would have asked questions in my interview process talking about policies of how my job would be protected during downturns or market crashes and things like that. But those aren't always things you think about when you're interviewing. So just making sure you have those top three things that are your top three that you can't have a job without. So making sure you know those up front.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think making sure that you're a good fit for the company and the company is a really good fit for you is really, really important, whether it's your first job out of college or your 10th job 20 years from now. You spend a lot of time at work, so you definitely want to make sure that you are happy at work and happy with the people that you work with. So, kind of spinning off of that, can you talk about how, once you're in that first professional position, how do you go about making professional connections and just getting established and being credible in the workplace?
Yeah, so that I would say is probably the biggest challenge for a young professional coming out of college. And for me, that's something I faced even more because I ended up working for the company that I worked for as a student. So while that benefits me in a lot of ways about just knowing our processes and systems and culture, it was a little bit working against me in the way that a lot of the staff knew me as a student, and sometimes it was hard to kind of make that jump from seeing me as a student and then seeing me as a young professional and a colleague. So that was something that took me probably my first full year of employment. Not that they didn't treat me so well, they took me in and I still made a lot of relationships, but it took a full year of working for, I think, people to see me as a colleague versus just like a student or a friend that was hanging out. So it does take some time. So if you're not, making those connections right away, or you're not maybe fitting into like the group of people that have been working there for 15, 30 years, don't worry, it will happen. You just kind of have to build up your credibility a little bit and show that you are there for the long haul and just keep trying. I would say I would just like reach out to people one on one. So I had a couple of coworkers that I really liked as people, and from a distance, I saw they were very connected in larger groups. And then I would just kind of make that initial connection one on one, asking if they wanted to eat lunch with me, or we have a amazing department in our building called the Workspace that has a lot of after hours crafts and activities. So a couple of times I would ask if somebody wanted to do a craft or activity with me right after work, um, which when you say it out loud, it sounds kind of lame, but it truly worked. It was how I made connections with people, just having that one-on-one time to get to know them better, get to know their life outside of work, whether it was their families or their pets. Pets are always a great way to make connections with people. Everyone loves to talk about their pets. So asking about that and just kind of putting myself out there a little bit and going to the group events, going to the after work dinner. When you get invited to things, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming or nerve wracking to go to this big group event when you feel like you're a little bit on the outside still. But just stepping out of your comfort zone and going to those after hours or lunch meetings or whatever it is, that just kind of starts to get you in the group a little bit more. So I would say that my coworkers and the connections I've made with them is the number one reason that I love my job, and it would be the number one thing to keep me at a company. So as hard as it can be in the beginning to make those initial connections, it's so worth it. It becomes the thing you rely on, the people you spend the most time with, because you will spend more time with your coworkers than your spouse, than your kids. So you definitely want to make those connections early and make strong friendships with your coworkers.
Yeah, I will echo that a lot. I think it's really, really important to make sure you have a workplace where you feel like you can connect with people and talk to people and hang out at work and outside of work. And like we said, you spend a lot of time at work, so making sure that you have your team there, of your friends that you feel comfortable with is really, really important. And I would agree, it's the number one reason that I think a lot of people stay at companies. If you like who you work with, it makes your workday go by a lot faster and it makes it a lot better. So, we've been talking a little bit about how you spend a lot of time at work. And as we know, when you're in college, you might have a lot more time to take a nap or hang out with your friends or things like that because you're going to classes here and there, and then you have a lot of free time in between. And when you're making that transition to becoming a full-time professional, sometimes it can be hard to get used to that 8 to 5, or maybe in the events industry, you're working a lot of nights and weekends. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how that transition was for you and any advice you have for work-life balance?
Yes, I will be completely honest. I struggled a lot with the transition from student to full time, but I think that's really normal. I think a lot of students, when you're thinking about a full time job, you think, oh, it's not going to be that different because I already go to class all day or most of the day, and a lot of students already hold a job. So they're thinking it's going to be easier actually because I'm not going to have to do homework, study for tests, write papers when I get home from class and work, which is true in a way. When you are home from work, at least in my position, I do mostly leave my work at work and don't take a lot of that home with me. But it's just the getting used to a very scheduled life. So, most jobs, or at least a lot of jobs, are very like 8 to 5, or if it's not 8 to 5, it's like 9 to 6. So that's a very common work schedule. And I think just getting used to doing that every single day, Monday through Friday, was difficult for me because in college, maybe I would have an 8 a.m. 3 days a week, but then Tuesday, Thursday, I might have an 11 a.m. So then I can kind of catch up on sleep or do things that I want to do in the morning before I go to class. So that was probably my biggest struggle, was just getting used to that daily routine of getting up. For me, I commute, so getting used to the commute to work, getting to work and getting, you don't have to get right to work, but making sure that you are in a mind space where you can get things done. And then for me, not getting home till almost 6 o'clock on a regular night, just with that commute at the end of the day as well. So it ended up being longer days than I expected. But like we talked about, having amazing coworkers was the number one thing that got me through the transition, because I had things to look forward to when I got to work. So I was able to get to work and I would have my coffee with me and I would maybe chat with my coworkers for 15, 30 minutes before I sat down and got right to work. So having that kind of morning interaction with people was really beneficial for me. And then having people to eat with at lunch and just those things that help you look forward to things throughout the day helped with the transition. But as for work-life balance, I think that we're always figuring it out. I don't think anyone would tell you that they have a perfect work-life balance ever. You're always going to be working on that. There's going to be seasons in your life where you're going to be working a lot and maybe aren't going to have a very good balance. And then there's going to be seasons in your life where you are really focused on things in your personal life, your family, your exercise, your health. Like there's going to be kind of that ebb and flow. So I think one, just recognizing that you don't have to have it all figured out and it's okay to sometimes be more focused on your personal life side of things and sometimes it's okay to be more focused on your work life side of things. So for me that works because I know that there are, especially in the event industry and with me working with weddings, I know that wedding season I'm going to be extremely busy working a lot of nights and weekends and it will be more focused on work. But then I also know that there's going to be seasons where I can take a step back, maybe not be late at work any nights of the week, and I can go home. I could even leave early some days. So just knowing it's going to ebb and flow, but you do have to you do have to focus on your personal life as well as your work life. For me right now, I don't have a family or kids of my own, so that allows me to be a little more involved in my work. But I have lots of coworkers who have kiddos, have family, and they have kind of changed their work schedule to be flexible so that they can pick up their kids from school or from daycare. And that's their specific family time. And they've kind of been able to adjust their schedule to that. So just being able to see other people balance and make that work with kids is definitely encouraging as well. Yeah, and then just really soaking up the weekends. For me, when I'm not working, I stay 100% unplugged from work if I am not working that weekend. So you may get emails, you may have email on your phone or take home a work laptop. I don't respond. After I am done working, I am unplugged. And that was hard because when I first started, I wanted to like constantly be like super fast response and on top of everything, but I've just learned that that is my way to relax and reset, and my coworkers understand that about me, so they don't expect me to respond on a weekend if I'm not working. So setting those boundaries, understanding it's a constant, I'm going to be working on it. It's a constant battle of the work-life balance, but just find those things that you need to make you feel happy, healthy, and at your best, and make time for those. And then the rest of it kind of works itself out.
I think those are definitely great pieces of advice. It is a little challenging to figure out when you're in your first full-time position and you're trying to navigate, what this new professional life looks like, but definitely focusing on self-care and setting those boundaries can be really vital for your own health and mental well-being. So those are all great things. Any last minute advice for students who will be soon making the transition from student to professional or people who are new into their professional role?
I would just say, and I say this to all of our students that are graduating, it is difficult. It is a difficult transition, but give it a year. A year is how long it took me to fully feel like I was in the swing of things, feel fully just enjoying my job, feeling like I had a purpose in my job. So just give it a year. It's hard for everyone. Don't feel like you are going crazy or you are the only person that's struggling with the transition. Every one of my friends and colleagues that I've talked to has had this struggle with transitioning from student to full-time life. So just give yourself a little grace during that period and give it a year. And you will see that things do get a lot better after that first full year.
That's great. Well, thank you again for joining us today. And it has been so wonderful to hear from you and more about your experiences as a student and more about that transition from being a student into the professional realm and what that looks like. So thanks again for all of your knowledge and insight. We're glad you could join us. And if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to leave those in the text box below. But otherwise, thank you and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Everyone.